channel video, and today I'll be doing my collective eyeshadow palette review for September. Welcome back, and today we are doing again a very long overdue collective eyeshadow palette review. If you want to see a collective makeup review from other than eyeshadow palette products, that should be already live on my channel and it's gonna be on my review playlist. So if you want to see a roundup review of other makeup products that I have been using during the some of those were products that I used already on July, so you can then go and watch that one. But with this video we are focusing on the eyeshadows, and again we are having the typical amount for these videos, so we're having 5 palettes, and that's usually the amount of palettes that I like to use up before making one of these review videos. Sometimes we have had more, sometimes less, but the 5 is usually what we are been doing. And as always with my videos, I will be first showing the palette, discussing some general things, then you will be seeing a picture popping up here with 3 demo looks and 1 picture with the swatches, so you are gonna see sort of the variation the palette I got from the palette, and also the swatches, how it looks swatched on my hand. And today we are sometimes these are a bit also ranking, sometimes it's just that the palettes overall have been I either have liked from all of them or there isn't clear favorites generally. So but in today's video we are kind of having 2 palettes that unfortunately I think I will be decluttering after this video because the quality just wasn't up to par, and then we are sort of having 3 palettes which I all kind of liked on their own way, so that's how today we are going to be dividing these. But let's now get to the sort of maybe the not so favorites palettes, and then we will go to the ones that I actually did like much more. So first palette that we are going to discuss is the Catrice the Soft Peony eyeshadow palette, and this is how we're looking at what we are looking at. And this was one of the eyeshadow palettes that came with their fall edit, so this is actually a relatively new palette. And I wanted to try one of these because I used to like the Slim Pro palettes that they have, but Catrice redid those palettes in their spring edit release this year, and I wasn't such a fan of the redone palette, so I did want to then try these ones because these have also been a palette that this style of palettes they have had several in their line previously, so I wanted to sort of see that would these actually be maybe I would like these more than the new variation of the Slim Pro palettes. So as you can see, this doesn't have its the palette had, I think, is there maybe 2 truly matte shades, and then the rest of these are satin and shimmers. And I did actually kind of also, what made me get this is the color story, so I kind of like this sort of grayish pinkish leaning. I like to call this the early 2000s Barbie look is what I thought when I saw this. So I was pretty curious, and I was thinking that because this also wasn't that expensive because it's Catrice, I thought that well, I'll give that a try since I'm not currently liking with their other eyeshadow palette formula. And you're gonna now see the swatches and the 3 looks here. And unfortunately about this palette, why this is one of those palettes that is getting decluttered is that unfortunately this is the kind of formula that just blends away. So with this one, it did actually build quite nicely, so I will give this credit that I did kind of have to use some of the shimmer base shades because this didn't have that many mattes, but they did build, and you were able to, because these are the more kind of, this has the more kind of satiny formulas, you can use them as your crease shades. But unfortunately, immediately when you tried to blend the shades, they kind of blended away, and that's also something that I wasn't expecting because this also did swatch out relatively well. Some of the satin shimmer shades actually swatched quite well for what I was expecting, but it's just that unfortunately, because I don't want to have to go over and over with my eyeshadow and then having to then blend and seeing it blending it away. It was just I needed to do quite a lot of work to get the looks together with this one. So like the color stories, the swatches were also promising, but unfortunately the quality of this one is just going to go away. Maybe if you have a teen or a preteen in your family and and you're looking to buy something for someone to get just started and play out with colors, and you don't want them to get freaked out by having these super pigmented shadows that don't just blend at all, then this could be something to look into. But just for someone who really needs their makeup work for them and last through the whole day, this just wasn't it for me, and as I said, unfortunately I will be throwing this one away after I have filmed this video. Okay, so then, as you have seen from probably from thumbnail, we are going to be having two of Makeup Revolution's newer eyeshadow palettes in their sort of newer revamped formula. And I'm already gonna say this is, even though I'm just gonna be honest, this is gonna be the second palette that I will be decluttering after this video, but this was already much better than the Catrice, but because of some minor things, this just wasn't as good as the other Makeup Revolution palette that's gonna be in this video that I'm actually going to be praising quite much. But the one that I wasn't such a big fan of from the two Revolution palette was this one. So this is the Eternal Icon eyeshadow palette, and this has the sort of greenish sort of eggplant purple color story. So I was actually like thinking that this is actually like, because they came out with 4 palettes in this line. 2 of them are a bit of dupe palettes, so the one that's more reddish orangey one that we will be discussing later, and then I will be mentioning which one is probably duping. And then there is a third one that is, I think, meant to dupe like Huda Beauty's Rose Quartz palette, and then they have this one which is a like unique color story, and then they have a smoky palette which is also like, I think, meant to be a unique color story to the collection. Generally, since I used to try a lot of Makeup Revolution's eyeshadow formula, because that used to be a inexpensive brand that was relatively accessible for me, and I was still a student, so I didn't have such a big makeup budget. This like formula is like much better what the brand has done before. The mattes are actually something that built really nicely. There's no longer this kind of, because some of the mattes, there was either the fact some of the mattes could be a bit powdery, or then some of them were stiff to work with. The matte formula is already like pretty improved from this one. The 2 creamy shades here, these are meant to be used as base shades, and one reason why this is getting minus points from me is that this also, aside from like, I can deal with these ones as a base shades combined with the mattes and shimmers. However, you can't use these alone as shades, because then they will just crease, and these are very emollient. Like I can just like swatch these quickly, like these are very emollient creamy shades, so you really need a matte shade to set these down. And the reason why this wasn't working for me compared to the other palette that we will feature later is that this also has this sort of a very thick golden shimmer shade, which swatched out looks kind of nice, but you can probably already see that it's pretty chunky. And one of the looks that I'm now gonna actually show, the 3 looks and the swatches, in the sort of burgundy golden look that you will see, where I used one of the cream purples, and then I layered the creamy golden shade on top. That was just like a hot mess, like an hour after taking this image. So with this one, first of all, is that I have one shimmer shade in this one that actually creases, like no matter if I use the powders underneath it or if I layered it over the cream shades that were included in this one. So that already kind of did have minus points for this palette for me. Also something that I will say, this has the sort of, the shimmer, the sort of like, how should I say, it has this one very bright green shimmer which is very beautiful, but all the other shimmers are these kind of muted, more satin-like shades. The quality of these are actually still like better than most of the shimmer shades that I have ever tried from Revolution, but compared to the palettes that I have in my collection and compared to the palette within this line that you will see much higher in this sort of review video, I just think that, well, now that I have seen that Makeup Revolution can actually do quite a nice eyeshadow formula, I was just thinking that why did we have to have then these sort of like more dull satiny type of shimmery shades, because if they can do already like something better. And because this palette, like, it has the sort of bright green shimmer here that's already like more shinier. So with this one, why it's again it's getting decluttered, I didn't feel that it was as great as the other palette that I tried from this line. Also, I have this color story, so during the summertime, and you can see the palette in my previous collective eyeshadow palette review, I tried one of the Moira's palettes, and the Moira palette has a similar color story to this one, but it has actually more shades and it has a formula that I like much more. So because this just wasn't as up to par as the palette that I'm going to be compared to later, it's also getting decluttered, and also the fact that I have a color story of this one in a better formula already in my collection. So let's now get to some of the palettes that I truly genuinely did like, and I am pretty happy that I got them. This is perhaps a palette that is kinda in a middle category where I like it a lot, but it didn't perhaps fulfill all the expectations I had from it. So I got from Monolith Shop the Gourmande Girl Peach Perfect palette, and I did think that this was, I think, for comparing the season we are now entering to this is the perfect fall palette. So we have this sort of sagey earthy greens combined with different tones of oranges, but instead of just having these bright oranges, there is actually a bit more also. We have this sort of muted orangey shades here. We even have this sort of deeper wine shimmer here, wine red shimmer here. So I have tried previously, and why I was quite excited to get this palette was that I have tried the Sivia Soto and Gourmande Girl Coloration palette before, and I was very impressed with that one, not only with the shimmers but also with the mattes. I felt that the matte formula was pigmented, but it was very blendable, and I have gotten some very beautiful looks with this one. And now I'm gonna pop out the looks and swatches, and then I'm gonna maybe discuss why I'm not exactly why this was maybe a bit of disappointment, even though it's a good palette. So you do get some diversity with this one. You can see from the looks you can actually get a very punchy green look with this one, but you can get also pretty muted this sort of orangey, almost neutral leaning looks. And I do appreciate the fact that the palette, this palette there is actually a matte brown included in this one, so it is good that it gives some options for this. However, this wasn't as, I think I noticed one other influencer who reviewed this saying that the mattes are a bit harder pressed in this one. And I don't know, is it a specific formula change Gourmande Girl made for this palette, because I haven't tried the palettes in between that have launched between this one and the Sivia Soto collaboration palette. So I don't know, is this a new matte formulation completely, or have they done this already in previous palettes? And because it's a bit harder pressed, I did feel that, especially because this has a lot of these, there is quite a lot of these paler shades, so you have this sort of bright, what is turquoise shade here, you have this sort of sagey shade here, and you have even though this kind of muted peach here. So there's actually quite a lot of these quite pale shades that do with this kind of form, then you have to build them up a bit more. You were able to build the shade, so it's not the issue where I felt that I was building and nothing showed up. So that's just, it's not like it's unusable. The shimmer shades were already beautiful. Something that I will say that is a dark shade, so this has the shade peachy keen over here, so it's this sort of, how should I, orangey shifty shades, and this is something that's very hard pressed, and you can kind of see it also. I did rub quite hard my finger on it, but it just feels like it's hard to pick up. It actually emphasized some of the creases in my lid, so that's also, I was kind of bummed because all the other shimmers in the palette were very beautiful and very sort of had a bit of shift to them and had very nice sparkle to them. So with this one, I do like this palette, and I do like the looks that I got with this one. It's definitely staying in my collection, but I would be now kind of curious to see that if Gourmande Girl comes out with another palette this year that I get interested in, that how the formula is that one, because as I said, the matte formula didn't quite match with the expectations I had from their previous palette. But if you like this sort of peachy, sagey themed palette, I still think this is a good palette to get, and I do think Gourmande Girl isn't, in terms of indie palettes, they aren't as expensive as maybe some other palettes, so their palettes go around I think the 40-60 euro mark, depending on the size of the palette, so they are still, I think, pretty decently priced for an indie brand. But yeah, so not as great as I expected, but I still do like the color stories, and I did generally like the looks that I got with this one. So okay, maybe the theme of this should be the palettes that I had expectations for, but they weren't exactly met. But with this one, I do say that I didn't have any quality, maybe not formula complaints maybe that I had with the other one, even though they were very minor with the Gourmande Girl palette. So I got the Blend Bunny Longing palette. It's been actually it was still, I think, July when I tried this one, so it's been quite a long time. And this is how it looks like. And I was thinking that this is the ultimate cool toned palette, and I have been looking to something to beat the Dollhouse palette that I have from Blend Bunny, and this has to be the palette to do that. And I have to say that we aren't quite, we didn't get quite there. First of all, nothing to complain about the formula. This has the good blend bunny formula. It has the mattes that build beautifully, that are pigmented, but they're easy to work with. The shimmers, the shimmer quality truly has been amped up. The previous blend bunny palette that I had from this one was the Sickly Sweet palette, and they have had come in palettes in between that one and this launch. So this has the sort of newer, very sparkly, and there is even, I think, one multichrome included in this one. So in terms of shimmers, this is a huge upgrade to what the other blend bunny palettes that I have include. However, the issue, and now I'm actually gonna show the images so you can kind of maybe get what I'm talking about. You only get very deep look with this one. So now I'm gonna maybe do a bit comparison with the Dollhouse palette. Of course, with the Dollhouse, it's much bigger. I think there's like sort of is there like one additional row of mattes compared to maybe this one. But with the Dollhouse, I have felt that had the perfect variety of very pale shades to mid-tone shades to very deep shades, and then they actually had the 2 rows of shimmers too, which was a plus for that palette. With this one, I'm a bit lost on the fact that I am missing the mid-tone shades. So, and this was maybe something that surprised me. So we do have the very light kind of shades here. So for example, this one over here, this over here, this over here, this over here. But then these kind of shades that you would expect, for example, this brown, this turquoisey shade, even this sort of purple here, they actually go pretty deep. And I'm a person who, they are still like easy to work with, but I'm really like a person who also needs their mid-tone shades for eyeshadows to work for me. And that's a skin tone specific like thing. If you have a medium, deeper to deeper skin tone, then you probably don't have similar issues. So for me, there's the issue that we have these, I have the very light shades, but then even the mid-tone looking shades, they went quite deep. And that's the reason why when you are looking at the looks that I have posted here, they all look pretty deep kind of looks, because I wasn't able to sort of get the sort of mid-tone shades to sort of balance out the look. So this is a palette that I would recommend that if you like your very cool toned glam looks, this is going to be perfect for sort of any kind of parties, like pre-Christmas parties, New Year's Eve parties. Like I can imagine during especially the winter time, this is going to be great for all those evening occasions when you want maybe something kind of smokier. But for me, what this is very much was lacking was that I didn't have the sort of mid-tone shades that I could have maybe gotten then something not so smoky and glam as we are seeing from the images. Is this still a good palette? Yes, this is an excellent palette if you like your cool tones, and if you're especially someone who has maybe wanted to dabble a little bit into color, but you don't want to get these rainbow palettes. This is, I think, a good palette for those kind of people who like their neutrals with maybe a pop of like muted colors, because this is the kind of palette that I would call palette with muted colors. But yeah, I was like a bit, how should I say it? A bit surprised, because from the images and in the pans, the shades truly look like this would have the full variety of shades from light to mid-tone to deep shades, but a lot of the shades from my skin tone just go pretty deep. And again, that's a skin tone specific thing. On a medium to deeper skin tone, probably this will then offer the sort of color grade, sort of tone gradient that you're expecting. But if you're someone who has a fair skin tone and you're planning to buy this particular palette, then I would just give you the warning that be prepared that you're gonna just get very deep looks, even if you would try to like maybe like do some like picking and choosing between the shades, but most likely your looks are gonna end up looking pretty deep. But as I said, with the shimmer shades especially, very much improvement from what other Blend Bunny palettes that I have, and I truly wish that they will continue with the shimmer formula, because I do think that the shimmer formula used to be something that was kind of like, it was okay and it was nice, but now truly the shimmer formula I think is also like matching the matte formulas that they are doing. So, to end the theme of expectation not matching, but this was in the most positive way, I would have never expected that I'm gonna go and do a makeup palette review video and say that one of my favorite palettes from all the palettes I tested is a Makeup Revolution palette. Like, truly something has changed. So the palette that I'm discussing is the Revolution. This is the True Icon palette, and this is the second of the True Icon, the sort of Icon series palettes that I bought, and this is obviously duping the Patrick Ta palette. I don't remember the name of it, but you can see it from the color story. All the way in terms of the fact that this has the two of the sort of cream shades and then the shimmers. I don't understand why they don't do all of their palettes with this particular formula, because the matte formula of this one is like, I haven't tried that kind of formula. Like the mattes in the other Icon palette I showed were pretty good, but this was even better. With this one, some of the mattes even feel a bit creamy. The shimmers are beautiful. They are the most sparkliest shimmers that I like. I can't say that there are many drugstore or even mid-range shimmers that I can get, and even some high-end brands don't produce the shimmers that this has. The cream shadows I could do without, but with this one I can actually tolerate them because they do actually make kind of nice base shades. Just don't layer the cream shades. With these palettes in generally, now after trying two ones, I'd say that with the cream shades, use one of the cream shades as a base to your powder products, but don't try to layer them, it's gonna be a hot mess. But this is just like I was thinking that where has this eyeshadow formula like been all this time, because Makeup Revolution, you're gonna now see the swatches and the looks. You can see there's not much tone variety, but I'm still gonna keep praising this one. Like, where was this eyeshadow formula all this time when you were kind of seeing that their base products started getting, well, they always did kind of good base products even when I was still in university and studying, so base products they have always done really well. But now recently, after they had their sort of ownership changes, there's Jen Love's, is it just Jen Love's these days? It's no longer Jen Love Reviews, I think it's just Jen Love. Jen Love has done actually quite good work in explaining what has happened with Makeup Revolution as a company, but now that they have their sort of ownership changes, and I think with the strategy change, they are now releasing less products and more effort is clearly put into the products. And now that their sort of also cheek products have been something that they have gotten pretty good praises for, and there's quite a lot of like Makeup Revolution cheek products that I've been liking. But all this time we were thinking that while other products seem to have improved, we were thinking that why is the eyeshadow quality still the same as it was? This very mediocre, quite, in some cases it was actually quite bad. There were few collaboration palettes. The Soft Extra Spice palette is still like from the OG palettes, the palette that I think had the better formula, but it still wasn't anything exceptional. This for drugstore and even for like palettes in general is like almost exceptional. I'm gonna say almost because this still doesn't have like, there's one shiftier shimmer shades in this one, but truly there isn't like a multi-chrome shades, and the color story as a general is pretty basic bronzer palette. But I'm just gonna like, you're gonna see some finger swatches, which I usually don't do in these videos, but I'm just gonna like look at that. Where was this shimmer formula? Where was this, like, I'm gonna remind my editing self to actually like pop out the image when I'm doing this swatching part, because I just realized that, yeah, probably, yeah. But like, I'm thinking that where has this like shimmer formula been? And I'm gonna return the swatches and looks now. You don't get like variety with this one. It's a bronzy, orangey palette. You get very sultry looks with this one. And I'm particularly proud. One of the looks, you can see my hair is done. I was actually going to a friend's birthday party, so that's why my hair is also looking quite nice in that one image. But yeah, like, it's just like, yeah, I really wish that if Makeup Revolution will continue doing eyeshadows with this particular formula that's in this palette, then I'm gonna be probably buying all of them, and then I think I probably don't have to buy any other makeup anymore from any other drugstore eyeshadow palettes. But yeah, so just something to consider, as you have to consider, and as you saw from the other palette that was featured in this video, not all the palettes have this formula. So I think that especially considering that this has like all the, what is this? I'm having something. Yeah, no. So especially considering the shimmers, this has the palettes, the previous palette that I showed in this video, one of the green shimmers was in this very sparkly formula. The Huda Beauty Dupe palette, based on what I have eyed it from in store, I think that one also has one or two shimmers in this very sparkly formula, and then shimmers in other formula. The Smoky palette also seems to have a couple of shimmers in this very sparkly formula. and then shimmers in sort of other formulas. So they are clearly, I think what they're doing is that they're a bit now maybe experimenting and seeing which palette is like the most popular. And I'm hoping that, because I have seen this getting very much hype also on social media, that they will then take the feedback and just stick doing this shimmer and this matte formula, because it's truly like, it's beautiful. It's beautiful for like drugstore, and generally like I would wish the most makeup brands would have this kind of quality formula. And not only the shimmers are good, also I did feel that the matte quality in this one, though these are of course very neutral mattes that are included in this one, so that also might impact why it's easier to formulate a better matte formula. For example, the other Icon palette that I had, it had these sort of eggplant colors and greens. Those are harder formulas to do, especially if you're trying to do them at an affordable price, but I would hope that maybe they could do this matte formula with the other palettes continuing forward, maybe also in other than just neutral color stories. But yeah, nothing else to say. I'm blown away, and as I said, I can tolerate the cream shades. Don't layer the cream shades, but they do work nice as a base shades. But yeah, that's some surprising ending to this video. As I said, I would have never expected to say that I'm actually recommending that this is a Makeup Revolution palette you must have in your collection. So those were all the eyeshadow palettes I had for this collective makeup review. As I said, there were quite a lot of surprises, a lot of expectations, and expectations that were not met, some in a good way and some in not so positive way, but I was kind of like still pretty happy, happy in terms of the fact that yeah, the two eyeshadow palettes that are getting decluttered, those luckily weren't expensive palettes, and the palettes that I did put more money into, they were still like palettes that I enjoyed using, even though I wasn't like 100% in love with them. And of course the positive surprise was that one of the most affordable palettes was actually like the best palette that I would definitely recommend from this video if you're eyeing to buy a new eyeshadow palette. Comment down below what did you think about the palettes that I showed in this video. Have you tried any of them, and what did you think about them? If you like this video, push the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell button if you want to get notifications for my future content. You can also find me with the same nickname, Makeup Hedgehog, on Instagram. I hope I'll be seen again soon in another video. Bye bye!